This is the inside of the 2020 Auto Sleeper Broadway Eb. If I firstly move to the main control panel, we can just touch it anywhere and it will then turn on. We can then, in this top right hand corner, activate the lights. These can all then be individually turned on and off on their own switches. These particular spotlights can be moved along and placed in the rail wherever you would like, and these ceiling lights turn on by touch. Next we have awning light and the entrance light. On this side we then have water pump on and off. We need the water pump on to be able to get water out of the taps and fill the boiler if it's been drained down. Underneath that we then have how much water is in the fresh tank and how much water is in the waste tank. We then have battery levels, etc. just here. So we've got condition of leisure battery, condition of vehicle battery, the current currently being used, and then we have the mains current and the solar current just there. We then have battery selection. So V for vehicle, L for leisure. Whichever battery is highlighted on here is the battery being used to power the back end of the motorhome, and it's also the battery that's being charged when you are currently connected to main supply. We have the settings menu just here. So you'll see that charging at the moment is set in smart mode, which is the easiest way to leave it. They will basically just cycle between the batteries. So at the moment, the main supply is charging the leisure and the solar panel is charging the vehicle. We then have automatic tank fill for the whale filler on the outside of the motorhome. Just highlight this to make it 12 volt live and allow the solenoid to allow water into the tank. We then have fresh and waste tank heaters just here. So if you're planning on using the motorhome in extremely cold climate, you can pop these on to avoid any frost damage occurring to the tanks. We can alter whatever lights we would like to come on when we turn the 12 volt system on. Key beeps on and off, water level alarms on and off for the fresh and the waste tank. The brightness of the backlight and how quickly the screen times out when you are not using it. And then set the time and date, and then back to the beginning again. Along the top of the screen we have external temperature. We'll get this little picture of a sun every time the solar panel is active. The lightning strike beside it is just letting us know that we're currently connected to mains electricity. We then have the humidity in the center and the internal temperature across on the right. If we now come across to the control panel next to it, this one here is for the heating and hot water system. You'll see again it's just displaying the time, and it will let us know that we have main supply with a little picture of the 2-pin plug just here. If I now press the button, it will bring up a series of icons, and as I begin to rotate, they will flash. So if we start with the first icon just here, this one is for your heating. So if I now click on it, heating is off. All we now do is just rotate and pick whatever temperature we would like it to be inside the motorhome, and it will go right the way up to a very warm 30 degrees. So once we've decided, just click to store it in, and you'll now see a little flame has appeared above. That little flame there just represents the heating system, and it's just letting you know that you've set a parameter. Whenever the heating is actually in operation, the flame will begin to flash, and it will continue to flash until it's achieved the temperature that you have asked it. If I now click again and now rotate to the next icon, This one here is for your hot water. And again, if I click now, we are off. If I rotate, I can heat hot water in eco mode, which will give us a temperature of about 40 degrees. If I rotate again, we can heat it in hot, which will give us a temperature of about 60 degrees. And if I rotate it for a third time, we can also perform a boost on the boiler. The boost was mainly designed for if there's going to be more than one of you having a shower in quick succession of each other, or if you just want hot water extremely quickly. If you do perform the boost and the heating's running, the heating will turn off as it needs to use that extra power. And again, the icon will continue to flash until it's achieved the temperature you have asked. If we now move across to the next icon, this one here is power source. So we are currently using, if I now click on it, mains electricity using 2 kilowatts, indicated by the 2 little lightning strikes up here. If I rotate, I can lower the power consumption to 1 kilowatt. Extremely handy if we're on a low amp site to try and stop us from tripping. If we have both power sources available, we can run on a mixture of gas and mains at 2 kilowatts, or a mixture of gas and mains at 1. These settings are extremely handy, especially in the winter months. If you want to get up to temperature nice and quickly, it will only consume gas as it is required. And then lastly, if we don't have any main supply, we can solely run on the gas. Next we have the circulation fan for the heating system. So currently it's in eco mode. We can turn it up to high. Also, if I was to turn off the heating and the hot water and return to it, we can also use it just to vent the motorhome as well. If we now drop to the lower icons, this first one here is for a basic timer. If I now click on it, we can set a start time and then an end time. And then once we've set that, we can then decide what we would like on within that time period. Lastly, timer on or off. If I now activate the timer icon will come up there, and now within that time period those settings would apply. If I now return to it, I can turn the timer back off, and when we go back in we can then alter it again. Next we have clock set. And then lastly we have settings. So within the settings menu we have offset, which is just for the thermostat just here. If you don't think it's quite correct, you can just slightly alter it. Temperature, just if you prefer it displayed in Celsius or Fahrenheit. Brightness of this screen. 12 or 24 hour clock. Language. Index, which is more for the technicians in the workshop. And then lastly, full factory reset. From time to time, these control panels will throw up error codes, but they will usually be something relatively easy. So at the moment, we're running on mains electricity. So if I went and pulled the mains lead out, or we tripped, etc., it would let us know on this control panel that it's no longer got main supply. Same would happen is if you're trying to run it on gas and you don't have any gas, etc. A error code will appear as a warning triangle where my finger is, and you'll get a series of numbers and letters. And then within the manual, which is downloadable from Truma's website, or if you just Google it, it will tell you what the problem is. 9 times out of 10, if it's a basic problem and you can rectify it, once you have rectified, the error code will automatically disappear. If it doesn't, just come back to the warning triangle and double click on it, and then it will sometimes then just say no error and disappear. If that still doesn't work, if you still have items running like I have at the moment, just turn them off, because the control panel can reassess a lot faster when it's not trying to do lots of things at once. If you've done that and you still cannot clear the error code, I then always suggest the good old-fashioned turn it off and turn it back on again. And the way we turn the panel off is just by holding the black button in. If when you turn it back on again you still have an error code, I then always say do the factory reset. Sometimes that's all these control panels need. These particular control panels can also be controlled via an app. If you are going to use that, download the Truma app from the App Store onto your device. Make sure your Bluetooth is turned on and then launch it. Once you have launched it, it will ask you to go to the iNet box, and on this particular model the iNet box is just located in the overhead cupboard just here. It will firstly then ask you to press the Bluetooth button, which is just located just here, and then you'll get a blue flashing light as it sends the Bluetooth signal out. You will then connect up to it, and once you're fully connected you will be able to control your heating and your hot water locally via Bluetooth. You can also control it from further afield if you want to by adding a pay-as-you-go SIM card and then registering it through the app. If you are going to do that, the SIM card just slots in where my finger is, just here. If we now move to the front and come to the bench seat just here and we remove the cushions, you will now see, if I lift up, that we have the location of the leisure battery just here. We also have the main 12-volt fuse just there. On the back wall we have the battery charger, which charges both vehicle and leisure batteries from the main supply. We have some 12-volt fuses just here. These 12-volt fuses are labelled up, and as you can see they correspond to components that mainly are on the outside of the motorhome, like marker lights, etc. We have the Truma boiler just here, and we have the boiler drain valve just here. This particular drain valve is automatic, so if the temperature inside this motorhome drops below about 3-4 degrees, this valve will automatically open and drop all the water out of the boiler to frost protect itself. If you are going to manually drain the boiler down, make sure the water pump is turned off. If you are fully winterizing it, I then always suggest that you open the taps up as well, because this will help in releasing airlocks. And then come to this blue diamond and twist it. When we twist it, a blue button is going to pop out at the base of the unit, and then it will begin to drain the water out of the boiler. To close it back up again to refill, twist and then push the button back in, and it will then lock the valve shut again, and then it's just a matter of filling up the fresh water tank, turning the water pump on, and then bleeding the air out of the taps. Once they're running freely, close them back up again, and then the system will fully prime itself back up again. If this auto drains, all that will happen is the blue button will just pop out at the bottom, and all you need to do is just push it back in to reset it. If it will not stay in, it's just too cold in the motorhome, and you will need to turn the heating on to generate some heat to allow it to then reset. The only time we're touching the blue diamond is basically when we're manually draining the system down. Here we have the solenoid for the whale water fill point, and then tucked down here we have the pressure switch. If you're finding you're getting a lot of long pump overrun when you're closing your taps, you can slightly adjust this. Never twist it a heck of a lot, only very tiny little movements is all that's required. We also have tucked down in this corner a couple of gas isolation taps, the top one being for the fridge and the bottom one being for the heating and the hot water. They are all in the on position, and quite frankly they can stay like that. I always say that if you do smell gas in the motorhome, go to the source, so basically on this model underneath, and isolate the LPG tank. If I now come across to the other bench seat and again remove the cushions, and again now lift up, you'll see that we have the safe located in here. We also have the back of the barbecue point. And then we also have the back of the LPG filler and the external sockets as well, just there. We then have plate rack in this locker and the crystal glasses located in this locker. Sink, extractor fan, so we have 2 variable fan speeds and then lights as well. Beneath it we have the hob, so we have the electric hot plate that runs off the main supply, on and off just here. Then we have the 3 gas burners, and that is just push in, twist and push the igniter. Automatic gas cutout if the glass is shut. Beneath that we then have the grill, and again just push in, twist and push the igniter. And then the oven beneath that. Underneath the oven we have storage, but you will find right at the very back a plug plugged in, which is just for the electric hot plate. Gas isolation tap for the oven just in here. Freestanding table here. TV points in here, and the actual amplifier for the television aerial is just located in this locker. So we have the Max View digital amplifier on and off just here, and then control the boost just here. Beneath that we have the microwave. Again, this will work when we're hooked up to main supply. The isolator switch for it is just here. This particular microwave does not require a plate. And then we have all the usual quick start just here, stop, etc. And then we have all the power settings. Thetford fridge just here, on and off on this button. This is an automatic model, so as long as you are on A for auto, it will find the best power source it can for you. So because we're currently hooked up to main supply, it's put us onto mains electricity with the little picture of the 2-pin plug. If I was then to run outside and pull the mains lead out, it would then automatically attempt to fire itself up onto gas, and as soon as we start the engine of the motorhome, it will then automatically go over to 12 volt maintain to keep itself cold whilst on the move. You can see that the screen disappears after a short period. To bring it back up, just tap the on off button. We can take it out of auto if we want to, so if I press here I can manually put it onto main supply, manually put it onto 12 volt maintain. We're going to get an error code at the moment because the engine's not running, and I can manually put it onto gas, but auto is the easiest to have it on. Temperature control just here. Pull out worktop above. If we now come to the cupboard beside it, we have the location of the consumer unit. So we have the trip switches just here. So we have the 3 grey individual MCBs, then we have the main RCD and the yellow test button just there. They are all labelled up and correspond in the Auto Sleeper handbook. And then we have the 12 volt fuses just there. Again, they are all numbered up. So if anything's not working on main supply or 12 volt, just check to see whether or not you've tripped or you've blown a fuse. Along the top here we have 2 isolator switches for components that use mains electricity. So the amber one there is for the Truma heating and hot water system. So if I turn that switch off there and then tried to fire the system up on mains electricity, we would get an error code because we've isolated it here. The green one is for the battery charger. Again, we don't really want to turn that one off because we want to be able to charge the batteries up when we're hooked up to mains electricity. This one here will illuminate if we have reverse polarity connected to the motorhome. We can sometimes find that on continental sites. And then lastly, in this far left hand corner we have a black button which is full system shutdown. So if you're not planning on using the motorhome for a long period of time, you can press this and it will then kill any residual draw on the leisure battery. Next we come through into the washroom. So we have the basin and the shower cubicle. Extractor fan comes on when the light is turned on. Do make sure that the shower screen is fully secure for travel. Blue LEDs in the mirror. We then have the toilet. To open to the cassette, just pull the lever across. Blue button to flush. Close back up again. Level indicator just here, so this will illuminate when the cassette needs emptying. If this has been left open and you try to remove the cassette from the outside, it will not come out. So if you do feel resistance, just make sure that nobody's left it open. Wardrobe just here. So we have the smaller table just here and the table pole that can drop in between the driver and the passenger seats just here. Also located in the wardrobe is the Huawei mobile Wi-Fi unit. So this is all ready to go, as it were. The SIM card has already been inserted. So if I just press this button just here and just cover up the code number just there, all you need to do is literally go into your Wi-Fi settings. This will then come up. If you then click on it, you then need to insert the number into your device, which I'm covering up with my finger just there, or was covering up with my finger just there. Once you've done that, it will then take you to the SIM card provider's website, where you can then pay a subscription for as much data as you require. The beds in this model are nice and easy to make. We can either have 2 singles or a large double. If we are going to have singles, we need to rotate the seats around, like I've already done with the passenger seat. The seats rotate round by pushing down on these red levers just here when they're in the forward locked position. So if I now remove the armrest and then just remove the cushions, all we're then doing is getting the passenger seat into the position that we want. We can adjust its height. on the 2 levers just here, and we can do exactly the same thing on the driver's seat as well. Then all I personally do is then just pull this out slightly, drop this cushion down against the wall, and then we have our single bed. I sometimes recommend actually flipping them over as well, because that makes them a lot less bumpy as well and more comfortable to sleep on. We can then do this for the driver's side as well, and it will still leave a big enough gap for both people to be able to get out of bed. If we are going to have a double bed, all we need to do is pull out both sections so they meet in the middle, and then once we've pulled out both sections so they meet in the middle, all we then need to do is just drop all of the cushions into position, and then we have a nice large double bed. Fire extinguisher just located beside the driver's seat, and we also have smoke alarm just here, and the carbon monoxide alarm just here. Just push the buttons to just check them regularly.